Welcome to Close of Play with me, Sanjay Murthy, and former England international Geraint Jones. In this episode, India's like a Rolls Royce gliding down the highway of success. England, on the other hand, are more like chitty chitty bang bang, misfiring but pootling along. Australia are like the Italian job's Mini Coopers, balancing on the precipice of danger or on the brink of elimination. We'll chat all things T20. Remember to like and subscribe and enjoy the show. Jonesy, we're going to start with the 2021 winners, Australia. They are on the verge of elimination from this T20 World Cup after a match has just finished, which was their match against Sri Lanka, that the co-hosts, won by 8 wickets. Pathum Nissanka scored 100, the first of this World Cup. Kusal Mendes continued his fine form, getting his third consecutive 50. Australia, they were 181 all out after being 104 without lots. What do you make of that performance?
Well, I thought you were quite generous with the reference to the Minis. Oh, Minis are a brilliant car. At the moment, I'd have the
I've got one.
Australian cricket team they're more like the Trotters three-wheeler going round a corner that's toppled over. And that's that's unfortunately where it's at, isn't it? Where we expect them to go along. We had them as reaching the semis. Not a problem going through these. I think they're number 2 in the world, aren't they? Something like that. So
number 2.
We had it, not a problem. And then all of a sudden, it's not worked for them, and there's going to be some questions asked when they get back, because I can't see them being helped out at all by the other teams in their group, and they're pretty much done and dusted.
Someone who in our Ashes show got a lot of our attention outside of Harry Brook, and that was Cameron Green. $2.1 million at an IPL auction. He's had no form really since then. I know he was injured for a bit of it, but in this World Cup, he scored 21 runs off 4 in 4 innings, and bowling wise, 1 for 19 off 3, which shows the captain Mitch Marsh doesn't necessarily trust him with the ball. It wasn't his fault that Greg Chappell said this guy's going to be one of the world's best ever players. And I think somebody, might have been Ricky Ponting, compared him with Jacques Kallis. Is the expectation too high as far as Cameron Green is concerned?
Seems to be a bit that way. He burst onto the scene a few years ago, pre-injury. He was taking wickets, he was scoring hundreds, he was fielding phenomenally at gully. And now, since he's come back, as you mentioned, from that injury, he was sort of thrust straight back into the Ashes. It's the highest pressure situation there is, and now he's gone off to a World Cup. He's batting at 3, and for me, he's an all-rounder. And I think they're trying to put too much on him. And with that Australian side, they've got Mitch Marsh up the top, who's formulatively years were as an all-rounder, and Cam Green's at that. And so now he's having to deal with a load of pressure and sort of the team on his shoulders, and it's not quite happening for him.
The Josh Hazlewood, they've left it quite late to determine that he won't take any part in this World Cup, and they brought Steve Smith in as his replacement. Let alone the lack of any like for likeness, but are they an aging side that's in transition, or is there sort of lack of performance in this tournament more indicative of the Australian T20 structure domestically?
I think you could put that at them, that they are a team that there's a few players at the back end of their career. Glenn Maxwell, for one, who's produced some astonishing performances in the past, but he's not a consistent player. He's one that he lights up a match every 6 or 7 or something like that. But in a World Cup, you need players to be on the ball from the start, and that's not quite happened for them. And you got Mitch Marsh captaining. He's opening. He retired from Test cricket. So once someone's starting to do that, you start to think, okay, at the back end. And the fact they pressed the panic button and flew Steve Smith out after what he did in the Big Bash, He didn't, don't think he's even got to play. So I think if you think, as you sort of question there about the domestic side of it, the Big Bash is regarded as one of the best in the world, the tournaments that the players in the past they've got to. And so you've got to look at it and you think, okay, there's what they've got, the product they've got, it works. So what's going on with this side? And are we picking the best players? Like Cooper Connolly's playing and he's done fantastically well. So he's earned his right through coming through the Big Bash and is playing. But he bats higher in the order. He's whether or not he's getting enough opportunity in this current Australian side. Compare that to South Africa. South Africa are storming this T20 World Cup. They've focused on their own product, and it's showing. Their players are going off and playing around the world, and they're benefiting from it. Australia haven't quite got their players playing around the world as much as they used to. Yes, they've gone and played IPL, but I think it's a bit historic now. What is current isn't quite happening, isn't reflective of what's going on in Australia.
For Australia to progress, a couple of things need to happen, I think. So Ireland, Zimbabwe is tomorrow. Now, if Zim win that, Australia's out. If Ireland win that, then it comes down to Sri Lanka versus Zimbabwe later on in the week. Australia going to beat Oman, obviously. So if Sri Lanka beat Zim there, so if Zim lose to both Ireland and Sri Lanka, then we're down to net run rates. So basically, for Australia to progress, Zim have got to get beat twice, once by Ireland, once by Sri Lanka. And the co-hosts, Sri Lanka, are going quietly along their business. They're kind of away from the limelight, aren't they? All that limelight's on India, the group there, Pakistan, all of the political stuff. Yet the co-hosts are going quite well.
They've been impressive, and the Sanka's 100 was exceptional, and that the fact they are in their own country, the players can feel comfortable there. They're very sort of comfortable with their surroundings. They're potentially family around, some some in their hometowns, home city. So that's a massive positive for Sri Lanka, and they're showing it. They've put in some good performances. So they're the outsider. I don't think we had them as going through. But
no, they're 35-1 the last time I looked. And the team that is second in the group currently, that we've spoken about, Zimbabwe, 350-1 to win this World Cup. Obviously, something's got to go drastically wrong with the Indians for that to happen. But they've also been impressive. You specifically talked about Australia's lack of ability to play spin, which was shown in the Sri Lanka match. But when they lost lost to Zimbabwe, blessing, Muzrabani took 4 wickets in that match. He's taken 7 in total in this tournament so far, and Brad Evans took 3 in that match, and he's taken 6. They're sort of upper end and medium pace bowlers have done a job for Zimbabwe so far.
Yeah, and they've been quite clever in the way that they've used them, especially against Oz. It was, because you're trying to sell me down that river again and get me to say something which is going to ruffle those Aussie feathers. But the one thing, if I do think about Australian players, and historically, they're brought up on good pitches. The Big Bash has played on amazing pitches where the bowlers are, very traditional. They're fast bowlers, they're spinners. So that little dobbers in between, which then you add to those wickets, which can be quite difficult. Someone bowls stump to stump, wicket-keeper stood up, and just with subtle variances, not only in what they do, but off the pitch. The Aussie guys are used to hitting through, and if that's not quite happening for them, that's a difficult position, because the formula they've got is bound, hit big. You think of those players, you think of Maxwell's not interested in sort of nudging it around, and he wants to go big. And when you look at the scorecard and you look at the way they played, and they lost a load of wickets in there's multiple single figure scores, with you had the 2 up the top who got them off to a good start. And then what they didn't have was anyone, which England have done so well in their matches. They've had someone stick their hand up and seen it towards the latter stage and put put them in a strong position. What Australia didn't have was anyone recognise it, especially in such an important match. Hang on a minute. I've got to take a bit of responsibility for the team here. I just can't, go for the personal sixes and fours and glories, and it doesn't matter if I get out, someone else is going to do it, because it showed that's what's cost them. They needed that person, and you'd argue in that middle order, Maxwell's potentially the one, because if he's at the back end, he's so destructive, and so that sort of thinking has really, really cost them, that no one has taken what's synonymous with Australia? They talk about the teamwork, a group of mates together. Well, in this case, someone hasn't stuck their hand up and sort of dragged their team through it, which we've expected from Australia.
The only thing about Zimbabwe is that Brendan Taylor's out. I think he's done a hammy. Ben Curran will come in, brother of Sam and Tom. I'm going to open this up to viewers, actually. But can you think of any brothers who have played for different countries at all? There's numerous cases of those who play for the same country, but I wonder if there's other brothers who played for different countries at all. I can't think of anybody.
The only thing I can...
Yeah,
not in cricket.
Oh, okay.
I think in rugby, I think it's random. I think is it Marnus's brother? There's a cricket player whose brother plays rugby for another country, and is it Marnus?
I guess there's going to be, in rugby, there's going to be cases of Pacific Islanders who have had brothers who have played for Australia or for New Zealand, I guess. There's probably quite
it's Japan, I think. It's even more random. I think it might even be Japan.
Oh, there you go. You see, so if we have viewers who are not only cricket fans but rugby fans as well, stick it in the comments and tell us if you can think of any brothers who've played international sport for different countries. So there you go. So, so Australia on the brink. Ireland Zim is tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on that. When we do our Thursday show, we can have a review of what happened there. Associate Nations, they've gone pretty well so far. It's probably a testament to the ICC with this larger 20-format World Cup, a 20-team format World Cup. Possibly the Netherlands and who have been disappointing so far, I think. Sorry, Nepal and Namibia aside. A lot of the associate nations have and continue to draw on talent that originated from the full member countries. If you look at Scott Edwards, Tongan-born Australian, captains in Netherlands. Look at JJ Smuts, full caps for SA, now plays for Italy. And in the 2024 World Cup, Corey Anderson played for the States, and he's got full caps for New Zealand. A lot of the Omani and UAE players are from the Indian subcontinent. So with the number of players that these full member nations produce, and the system is one that is going to be continually producing players, and they can't get into their let's say their birth country, if you like, or the country that they're a national of. Do you think these associate countries will continue to benefit from that surplus of talent from the full member countries? And if you look at Afghanistan, not only have they become a full member country, but they also got to the 2024 T20 World Cup semi-final. So do you think that the associate nations will continue to benefit from the surplus of talent from the full member countries?
Yeah, I think they will, because as you mentioned, there's players there, and even myself, someone who played for a full member and then was able to, once I'd had that period of time out of top level, out of international, so I could qualify, it was a fantastic opportunity for me. And it's also the other ones who can't quite make it into their home country, then start looking at sort of lineage and births and stuff, and so, okay, well, I know I'm good. What's my opportunity? Because this is a prime example, 20 countries at this World Cup, so there'll be so many people out there looking at and thinking, the way Italy have gone, especially in Australia with a huge sort of, sort of heritage of Italians in Melbourne and Sydney. There'll be players there thinking, you know what, I want to give this a go. I want to try and, I think I can play for Italy. And so I think they're going to benefit from them, but I don't think you'll get to the level of the Afghanistans, because what you're able to do with, with qualifying myself with PNG, I could dip into these tournaments, sort of. So what I was doing back here in the UK, I was carrying on with my job. I was playing for Gloucester. I was able to sort of look at it and go, okay, well, yeah, I can play that tournament. I can go to that tournament. But to be a full member, it's a big commitment, and also you need the structure underneath. You need
That's true.
you need a high quality domestic cricket, and that's where Afghanistan, with they will be playing a lot of domestic cricket, and it'll be good level, and they're also able to, because of the borders, get people close by. But yeah, that's the difference for me, is that you can get these players who've got jobs in Australia who then want to see a World Cup. I want to play a World Cup. And so they will go down that pathway, but I don't think you'll get the full member nation stuff like what Afghanistan have done.
I guess this is why I know Ireland's a full member country, but Scotland and the Netherlands aren't. So this may be where this European T20 League will play a part in developing some of these countries. Super 8s, we're nearly at that stage now. Group X is in India. India have qualified. The West Indies have qualified. South Africa are going to qualify. So that just leaves our friends, the Australians, who are looking ropey. I might mention that a couple more times as we go through this show. Group Y, which is based down in Sri Lanka. England have qualified. The home nation have qualified, Sri Lanka. New Zealand are going to qualify in Pakistan. Pakistan have got to beat Namibia. And I think it's probably in the next day or so for that to happen, which does take us to Group A. And that match that happened yesterday, which was India-Pakistan. Pakistan are an all or nothing side, and they showed that in the way that they approached most facets and all facets of the game yesterday. India won that by 61 runs. It's strange, I thought, that when Pakistan won the toss, Ali Agha, I think's the captain, he chose to field when every other side has won the toss, has chosen to bat, and has won the game. And that's probably indicative of the maybe the pressure that the Pakistanis were under from even before the game started.
Yeah, that's an odd one. Why on earth you'd give India the chance, the freedom to go out there and put a massive total against you, when that's exactly what India want to do, because they've got utmost belief in themselves. And what do we all the Indians I've played against, all they want to do is bat. They don't want to field. They just want to, they've grown up, they've grown up from young, having a personal coach just to throw them to. They're going from match to match where they just bat. So when the toss goes up, they just want to bat. And so it's a bit of muddled thinking there. And it's also showing that Pakistan are, in a way, inflexible with their thinking. The way that they've obviously see themselves as a chasing side, but you've got to look at things and go, hang on a minute, look, like you said, all three teams batting first have won. Right, we've got to, at some point, we'll also probably have to bat first. The wicket's good. It's a big match. Let's get out there and let's put some runs on the board, because then you've got something to defend. Because that scoreboard pressure when you're chasing, especially in T20, if it's 200, when you're needing 10 and over, and it doesn't, only a few quiet overs, and all of a sudden you're up to 14, 15. And so it was an odd decision, and in such a big match, I think you're right as well. I think the lead up probably played a part. The whole sort of situation with were they not, the decision made outside of their, from the government to play, all that sort of stuff. And then, there's clearly chats as well about not shaking hands, and so there's so much. And the Indians have just, it didn't affect them one bit. Whereas I think probably the bigger affecting factor has been on Pakistan with it all.
Yeah, Ishan Kishan, a man who's been through a bit, I guess. He was there. He got dropped. He was out that Indian side for a while. Has come back, keeps wicket for them as well. Opens the batting. He scored 158 runs in his tournament so far. 197 strike rate. He scored 77 or 40 balls, top of the order in that match, which immediately put, as you say, Pakistan on the back foot. And why would you give India their chance to to go off, not only with the runs, the weight of scoreboard runs, but the pressure that immediately puts on the Pakistani batters, the bowlers, start off with, but the batters when they get out there. And that showed because Hardik Pandya and Jasper Brummer ran through the top three very quickly before the spinners came on and did the rest of the work. But did you? I don't know if you saw Hardik Pandya at the end. So the last his last over, which turned out to be, I think, the last over of the match, Ishan Kishan dropped one behind the stumps. It sort of died on him a bit. I think he sort of hard gloves just right on the floor. Don't think it bounced before him. But the next ball, it's only one or two balls later, the batter pumped one into the deep, and Kuldeep was running round, and he sort of basically just palmed it over the boundary for six. And Hardik, he lost his proverbial. And at the end of the match, he had a pop at Kuldeep. Now, I found that interesting. From the sense of, I understand, the professionals, the will to win and the selfishness, but did he put himself above the team in that instance?
He's a fast bowler, isn't he? So he's, the level. Us questioning his thinking. Well, we've done, we thought too much about it. We've clearly thought more than he does.
So that's Australians nailed. That's fast bowlers nailed. You're going well.
Is it? Yeah. You don't want to look at that and go down the selfishness route. That's something you don't want to label the player with that. But and so I'm not going to, because I know that you'll clip it and send it. But I think he just got caught up in the moment that that he's got some pride around his figures, and he's seen the back end of sort of that palm over six, and so he's got emotionally involved in that and sort of taken him away from the relevance of the match, and they've won and what have you. And of course with TVs it's going to show it up, but yeah, you don't want to look at that and go, God, he's selfish, isn't he? It's sort of, because that's all about him. And I'm sure it's not. And I'm sure once they got in the changing room, things had calmed down. It was all fine. But in the moment, like you rightly have picked out, it wasn't a great look.
You played with anyone that you could compare that to at all? Where's that bus? It's coming. I'm just going to chuck you under it.
Yeah. No, not so much that. It was probably a feeling of when other players have been performing and I haven't. That it's almost a bit of that questioning look is like, well, I'm scoring runs. Why aren't you? Sort of thing. There's been a little bit of feeling about that. But what I will say is the best players that I've played with have been incredibly selfish, but around their preparation.
Mm-hmm.
So they were making sure, and I would talk, batters especially, the best batters I've played with have made sure that they are ready to play in the match. And me being that lower middle order batter, I've got to wait. You'll get your time in the nets. Yeah, that's allocated. That's up on the whiteboard. But any extra stuff, I always knew that that those top order batters, that they were going to walk out of those nets when they were happy and not before. And so that was understandable. But then in the match situation, it didn't really crop up that much. Sort of, you sort of, there was some occasions where batters had scored hundreds and the game wasn't completely nailed, and playing shots that you just you didn't need to play that. Yep, you're going well, but let's just nail a few. But that was rare, really rare.
Pakistan have got to beat Namibia on Wednesday to progress to the Super 8s. Fun fact of Namibia, they are the only side to have now twice used the substitute card in a World Cup. They retired Zane Green the other day to get Ruben Trumpelman in. Didn't work. They still lost. That was the first time in this World Cup, and the other time was in 2024. So there you have it. Have you ever seen that before? Have you been involved in games where a team has retired a batter out at all? I should have retired you a few times. I get that bit, but that side.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought that myself a few times out there, sort of looking around, but it wasn't part of what was part of the when I was playing is the super sub rule. So when we That for a while there, they had it that you named 12 and that 12th player could take part. And that was generally Vikram Solanki and Always Shah were the ones that I think I mainly did that with, and they got the opportunity to bat. But it's something that it's crept into the Big Bash, hasn't it? I think they've retired players recently, and with some controversy around it. To try and the Sixers with Baba. There was that whole sort of stuff with what was going on there, and so it's not something you see because you're picked in the 11 for a reason, aren't you? And all of a sudden, if you're taken off, and what I will say is that if there's communication around it amongst the group, the coach has said, "Listen, I've been thinking about this. If the situation requires it, don't find it surprising if you get if I stand up and you get the dreaded wave, off you come." Because it's purely, it's not personal, it's tactical in a way to choose it. And so if the team is on board with it and understands that it will be used, and there's discussions in the dugout to say, okay, hang on a minute, maybe even a drink run out to say, whoever it is, you're struggling a bit. You've got an over to turn this around. You've either got to hit out or you're going to get dragged off. And so as long as that happens, I think that's the key to it, is that communication and the group buy-in. If it's just a maverick coach going, off you get, on you go, that's going to cause chaos within a team.
Was the Gary Pratt substitution as a fielder, was that planned, or was somebody actually injured back in 2005 and Ricky Ponting, the incident that caused so much rumpus as he went up the stairs, giving people grief left, right and centre?
I'd say it was manipulated well. In terms of,
there's a scoop for you.
With bowlers having, so Pratty would come on, bowlers would bowl and then they'd go off. And so then, they'd go off and they could change their shirts and they could have a bit of a time off. It wasn't just a procession where it was where Pratty stayed on and it was a constant sort of procession of players on and off. It was when there was a reason for it. Bowler had finished his spell, going off to change his shirt, and so come on for a few overs. But we also knew it annoyed the living daylights out of Australia, and especially Ricky Ponting. So it was for him to be the one that was run out. And if you look back in that, with it, as Ricky's coming off, Duncan Fletcher, because this is the sort of thinking that Duncan would do. We had Pratty coming around to every match because he was renowned as the best fielder in the country, and so we thought, well, let's manipulate this situation, and so Duncan was very clever at that. So that's why when Ricky walks off, Duncan's just on the balcony, just does not saying a word, just smiling and grinning as if to because he knew how much it did annoy. Yeah, exactly. So it was. And the fact he got a run out, that was the icing on the cake. It was, and then subsequently now they've changed the rules slightly. You can't go off as frequently and stuff. But we manipulated it well, and we just got lucky with that run out. It was perfect.
Jones, that's groups B and A done. We've talked about Australia, we've talked about India, and now we're going to go to your favourite part, which is Silly Point. Right, Silly Point time. You got the most apt mug there. I see you're always grumpy when Silly Point comes on. So it's good to see the props are back. Actually, I've missed them, especially. I think you peaked obviously with the kangaroo knackers that you pulled out a few weeks ago. So that was excellent. Right. So
did that get any traction? Did the viewers enjoy that?
Oh, it was a marvelous thing. Yeah, exactly. I think the orders, the website that sells kangaroo knackers has various gifts has gone through the roof. So they'll be on Dragon's Den soon. So they'll be pleased with that. Yesterday, India Pakistan. Now that was the final in 2007 down in Johannesburg. 2007. You were still interested in cricket then. So in fact, you might still have been playing. So you may well know the answer to this. But India won that. But who were the two captains on that day? That's your question. You get a point for each. Who's the India captain? Who's the Pakistan captain? That's a good shrugging of shoulders. Excellent. I mean, it's 1-1 in this. I could go
Hold
3-1
on,
up here
right.
at any point.
There's some points on the line here.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
India. I should be able to get India, shouldn't I? With that. So let's do some thinking. Who's around that sort of? So T20, did you say?
T20 World Cup, Johannesburg. England sent Paul Nixon
Yeah.
down instead of you as their keeper.
Yeah. That was done quite a while ago. Before that, I was. I think before I even went to Australia for that 06-07 Ashes series, and
Yeah.
I was potentially, I was thinking I'll be hanging on and getting a bit of a trip around Australia, playing some one-dayers. But then I subsequently found out that even before I'd flown out there, they told Paul Nixon to get his kit ready; he'd be on his way. So cheers, Varney. That was that. Yeah, and
Prince's shirt. There you go.
probably,
Didn't say Jones.
yeah, right
Said
decision
Nixon.
in there. But
Yeah.
okay, right. Who was playing? Indian. There's so many that you can choose from. So many. But who was a bit round legend that sort of time? I don't know. Let's take a stab in the dark at
Go on.
Dhoni.
Oh, brilliant. That's a good stab in the dark. It was MS Dhoni.
Yeah, Dhoni, because he was a legend at that time. But then Pakistan, no idea. It could be.
Yeah, they probably went through a load of captains in that era. We seem to have a captain every year.
Yeah.
Give you a clue. Do you want a clue? Or are you going to try and guess it?
No, we'd be here all after, all night.
Yeah, exactly.
All night, because I couldn't have a. Dhoni was an absolute pluck, but no idea. I'll give you that.
Top order batter, probably batted about 5, I'd say. Bowled a bit of off spin, tall, thin lad, married to a tennis player, Indian tennis player, lived in Dubai for a bit. She still does.
I remember that.
She still does Indian TV. She was doing it the other day for the Australian Open with Grace Hayden, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Any ideas?
Yeah, I know who you're saying. I remember it.
Good-looking lad.
Yeah.
Bit like you.
Good-looking lad. Yeah. It's on the tip of. No, mate. It's not fair. It's not fair if you give me clues and I take, even though I would take the point.
If I give you a clue, I'm not giving you the points. You can't have both, right? So, the answer is Shoaib Malik was the answer to that one. So point for me, point for you. We
They caused quite
along.
A stir, didn't they?
So again?
When they got together and they caused quite a stir as a bit of a celebrity couple from what I recall.
Yeah, Indian, Pakistani. I think probably some religious aspects in there as well. Hence they moved to Dubai, I would have thought. So that's 2-2. We move on to the next question next week. I need to make it. And that was quite tough. I think that was good. That was good standard. Yeah, exactly. Of toughness.
Can you tell me who batted 3 for the Outer Mongolian side in the 1923? Come on, mate.
That was Utabalaka, by the way. That was the answer to that question. So there you go. Group C, we moved on, which is England's group. West Indies have done very well in that, the 2016 winners. Looking strong. Shimon Hetmeyer, he comes out looking cool, no helmet to various players. If you look at Ben Stokes' face, he'll tell you that's not a great idea. He scored 133 runs so far, a strike rate of 166. Jason Holder's picking up some wickets. He's got a strike rate of 8.5, which is pretty good going, really. So they're through. They've got one more game to play. I'm not sure who they're playing, but they've got one more game to play. But anyway, they're through in Group
Good
X,
research.
the India group. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, I was focused on England, you see. So, I've done some England research. England are looking shaky, as I said at the top of the show. Will Jacks, he's got a strike rate of over 200. Scored 110 runs so far, yet he's coming in at number 8 and bowling some spin that's getting smashed out of the ground. Have England got that wrong?
No. I know there's been some chatting about it as well, especially with the lack of form with Joss Butler and the fact that Jacks has made his name as an opener. there's a bit of sort of kudos behind the commentary regarding that, but I think England have done it well with that, and having that player in that area. So, in that middle order that they've got, Tom Banton did it really well in their previous match. He hung on and he waited and he got that 60-odd not out to see them home. And now Will Jacks, I was listening to this whilst doing some gardening chores, and for a moment England were in a bit of trouble, and they were sort of talking about them. Oh, if they get to, I think it's 10 and over, they get to 170, 180, and that's it. Could that bring Italy into it? And then all of a sudden, whack, they targeted a bowler, they hit 18 off the over, and then it took them up to get over that 200, 202. And so I think what I don't want them to do now is press panic on Joss and take Jacks up the top, because Joss is a world class. He's the best ever white ball cricketer we've produced. Okay, yeah, he hasn't quite done it in this tournament. He needs to give himself a bit more time. He doesn't have to try and launch it out of the ground in the first over. Joss Buttler is someone who you could actually say, well, no, Joss, just take a little bit, right? Because if you bat 10 overs for us, you're gonna win that match for us. So I'm not talking about he's never going to be pedestrian, but just give yourself a fraction more, because if you can do that, and then we bring in Brooks, Banton, Jacks, and Overton, oh my gosh, that is power beyond power, and that's what's setting up. England have just got to make sure that they don't lose those, sort of a lot of cluster of wickets, and then and those. But what we do have, which I like, is those guys down there, those 4 players, to get us out. And the other thing I liked about England is they had guys getting into double figures, so getting those 20s off 15 balls all the way along. There's only that one single figure score, which was Joss. The rest were contributing, and that's to flip it back to what cost Australia. Australia didn't have that. Australia had a load of single figure scores, and then just a couple of higher ones. And so that's the issue. So that's where England are getting it right. I think that they've got utmost trust, and their depth of their batting is fantastic. And so, but you're right. The worry is the bowling. Will Jacks bowled the last over of the power play.
Yeah, it's
got
weird,
absolutely smashed.
Mm.
Yeah, and then Jofra's come back a bit, but you could argue against Italy. He bowled a bit more traditional. It was back of the line. He was troubling them with pace. It was probably pace they haven't faced that much of. But then for Italy to still put the pressure they did on, and Grant Stewart, Kent guy, came in, and he's renowned for hitting boundary. He's won many a match for Kent in that same situation where he come, and for him to be able to do that and give Italy a bit of a sniff, going into that last over. Yeah, they're unlikely to do it, but it was still into it the last over. That's the worry for me, is that when we go through to the semi-final stage, and we're coming up against batters who are better batters than what the associates have.
Yeah.
And so when our bowlers are under the pump, where have we got to go to? Because the issue, they've nearly had Nepal chased down. Italy gave us a bit of trouble. So what we're showing is that we're struggling to defend our totals.
They got nowhere to go. Same with the Ashes. The players that haven't played, Ben Duckett at the top. Arguably you'd say that he could replace Joss, who hasn't scored a 40 in the last 8 knocks, but who's going to keep? Bethel can keep, maybe. And then the bowlers, you basically got Luke Wood, who's played a game, the first game, and then you've got Ram Ahmed as the other spinner. Adil Rashid's has bowled 15 overs, has taken 6 for 137 with an economy rate of 9.13, and Jofra has bowled 16 overs, taken 6 for 149, an economy of 9.31. So you would say our 2 most experienced bowlers are bowled 31 overs, taken 12 for 280 odd, which is a worry. When they come up against, you say the full member side they played in this group, the West Indies, got beat, and then we're going to be in a group now in the Super 8s with Sri Lanka, New Zealand, and Pakistan. And so those bowlers need to step up. The other question I've got is, and I don't know whether this is indicative of how you play in the subcontinent. You've played there. Is the over reliance on the sweep shot and then getting caught playing it? Is that a technique thing, or is that a you've got to play it, but you've got to play it better?
Yeah, it's a shot now in the modern day. It's a massive shot, run scoring. But it doesn't look good when it doesn't come off, when you miss it in your LBW. I remember, when I was touring out there and Duncan Fletcher spoke to us about how in one match we didn't, he wanted us to sweep more because you play it to get on top of the spin, so obviously the danger of running down the track is stumping, and yeah, exactly. So that commitment down the wicket to a wicket that's turning, but already this wicket didn't turn huge amounts, so that probably could have been a better option. But so that's why running down the track is a danger. So you turn then and sweep now, especially the reverse sweep has come into it. But Fletch spoke to us once about it, but then he said with trepidation, "I'm worried that tomorrow 5 of you are going to go out there and get out sweeping," and that's exactly
Hmm.
what happens. Yeah, so
Right.
it's
Okay.
it's a
Yeah.
risk reward shot,
Yeah.
and you've ultimately it's I think no matter what you say, it's premeditated.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a
Yeah. Has to be. Yeah.
premeditated shot. You then have to adjust to the line of it. And the thing with spinners now, they bowl so fast, so
Hmm.
your time to adjust is less. The club cricketers, it's up in the air, it's loopy, you can adjust it. Whereas international cricketers, they're bowling fast and into the wicket, and they're trying exactly what they're trying to get you out. They're trying to skid it under your bat, get you LBW bowl, or they're trying a little bit of grip and top edge. So, you've got to ultimately say, no one's going to put it away because it's such a big shot, especially the slog sweep. It's just a bit of execution, and potentially how soon in your innings you play it. If you giving yourself a couple of balls just to have a look and then, okay, I've limbered up, I've loosened up, right, let's play it now. Whereas attempting it sort of first or second ball, I would say that's a lack of thinking.
Yeah.
Save it a little bit, get yourself in, and then bring it in.
Italy have gone well. Gave England a bit of a run. Beat Nepal by 10 wickets, which is a great effort. Afterwards, Stuart Law said that his players lacked mental toughness and needed to put social media away, which I thought was an interesting comment. But also, congratulations to Ben Menenti, who became the first associate player to score 50 against England in that match on Saturday. So there you go. So that's Group C, England's group done. Group D is a bit more. Well, it was a group of death originally, but Afghanistan haven't fired at all. They've won one match so far, which means that South Africa and New Zealand are going through. South Africa finalists in 2024. Aidan Markram's got under 50 runs, strike rate 178. Lungin Gili's taken 8 wickets, strike rate of wicket every 9 balls. They play the UAE on Wednesday, which they're going to win that. So they're, along with New Zealand, they've also been impressive with Tim Seifert and Finn Allen at the top of the order, and then they've got Phillips and Ravindra coming in. They're looking pretty strong as well. So again, I think in these tournaments, a lot of the focus is taken up by India for a number of reasons. England because it's our home sort of nation, and then Australia because they're the great rival as far as we're concerned, and it's good to see when they don't perform as expected. But I think that means that sides like the West Indies, like Sri Lanka, like New Zealand, and like South Africa, kind of run under the radar, and that can only be good for their chances of success in this tournament.
Yeah, I think especially New Zealand, it happens quite a lot to them. We know they're going to produce because they always do at these tournaments, but they almost leading up to it's almost it gets to the quarters, it gets to the semi-finals, and you go, oh yeah, I forgot they were playing. But they've got a great methodology. They've got they're a very united team, and so they get through. And they've also got a history of they know that they perform well, and so they've got that confidence to fall back on. But I think for me, South Africa are looking good here. I think as a team, they've got so many of the bases covered. As I've mentioned, that their players have benefited from a domestic tournament, which has got some good players to go out to and focus on this T20. And so you've got many players out there who are world class T20, and they've got power to burn. So if they need boundaries, they can go find them, and that's what T20 cricket is about. Is the team that can hit the most boundaries ends up winning. Where the perception of the longer format is, the team that can nudge it and get singles and strike rotation. Well, that doesn't matter in T20. It's can you clear the boundary, and that's where South Africa are very good. And so they're sort of a bit of an outside bet. Like I say, they've been able to come through this pool and they've not really been troubled. I know that in their first match they had, it went into double power, double super over, but they've got through that, and that's their hiccup, which historically, they've been known to have a hiccup along the way. So almost, okay, let's get that out of the way, lads. Let's move forward. That's done and dusted. That's our wobble. Let's really push forward.
They're 9-2, the South Africans. So there's they're quite short odds really. India are 7-4, I think. So there you go. So we did well on our predictions. We said our semis: India, Pakistan. This is you: India, Pakistan, England, Australia. I said India, New Zealand, England, Australia. So England, Australia is looking very dodgy. India, Pakistan is still on, as is India, New Zealand. So we might have 50% strike rate of success there. My England to beat India in the final is looking very, very ropey and distant. So if you want me to clip anything out and put it on social media, mate, I'll do that for you if you want, and take the abuse that's probably due. But I maybe we just didn't give it enough thought, but we should have probably had South Africa in the mix.
Probably not.
Yeah. I'll probably put it on you
but
minute. Better do some predictions.
Yeah. But I also think it was a tough one because, leading into it, it's been, England was Ashes focused, and then they went off and had a little bit of prep, and so it's felt like this tournament's come out of nowhere, and so to do that, think people have been, and so it's been tough, and so that's why it's been interesting to see, and now retrospectively we're able to say, actually, I'm not surprised South Africa are doing so well, and actually Sri Lanka, of course, they're in their home country. They've got that relaxed nature to them. They've got that home feeling which settles you, and also playing in being one of the hosts as well. So there's these countries which you think, actually, where we just predicted the main ones, and we're going to get it wrong with Australia. There's a few ones now which is sort of exciting for the tournament to see what can happen, who can keep going, and it could be that, who knows, you might even see a Sri Lanka in the final if something like that, if it carries on with a bit of confidence that they've got.
35-1 the Sri Lankans are. So you put your hard-earned teacher money on them. You might be able to pay for a little summer break, mate. You never know. Right, we're going to do a short show on Thursday as well. We'll see what's going on. And you're half term this week, aren't you? So no doubt the golf course will be worthy of your attention.
Well, yeah, not as yet. Pickleball.
No. Pickleball. I'm playing pickleball as well, actually. Yeah, good sport. Pickleball, underrated. Good fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I've got a chance. Patch has hit me up to see if I'd be interested in some pickleball. So I played it a bit at school last week, and so that's it. It's so wet, mate, for golf. The golf courses around the country.
I've got my own pickle paddle, mate. That's how seriously we take it down here. Christmas presents from the official pickleball website has made no difference. But I still try and hit glory shots, but the consistency isn't there. But maybe we can have a pickle round.
You're one of them, are you? You show up with your headband on, sort of full headband on. You've got your bat that's ridiculously good, compared to you when you're swishing air balls more than you're hitting. Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah, very similar. No headband, but the other day I did wear some some lycra tights underneath my shorts because it was cold walking up. So there you have it. It's always some.
What,
If I'm going to be crap at it, there's got to be some style involved, right? Can't have it. Can't be crap
what a
and look
picture.
like a dip.
See, you're basically one of these old men you see on a bike covered in lycra, but you're running around in an indoor pickleball.
Yeah, it's not that bad, but I see where you're going with it. Yeah, I think they're called mammals, aren't they?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. No, cycling. That's it. I can have a whole hour with you about cycling. How poor that is as a sport, but we probably won't go into that. Cycling's a transport method. That's it. It's not a sport. Anyway, there you go. Right, that's it. Close the play done, mate. Let's see how we get on Thursday. I will chat to you then.
Cheers, mate.
So thank you for watching this episode of Close the Play. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. It helps us a lot to get more content out there, more reach, get the algorithm working in our favour a bit. And we look forward to seeing you next time.